Hold up, pump your brakes. Don't believe everything you read. Brian Norman, he claps back at the rumor or notion that he's ducking the fade with Jaron Boots Ennis. Find out what Brian Norman Jr., brand new WBO champion, had to say about a fight. He says he welcomes the fight. Don't believe it. Now, I've already made a video about this, but now we have Brian Norman, who's on Wax, who did an interview, and he gave his side. And the cool thing is the same outlet, YSM Sports, that talked to Jaron Ennis, and Jaron Ennis says his team basically reached out to Brian Norman for unification, and they turned it down. The same outlet interviewed Brian Norman, and now it just makes it so it's one cohesive package where you can hear all of what was said right then and there. So let's get into it. Brian Norman, he claps back. You see he put this like wolf emoji or whatever on his verified page. Shout out to Dan the Boxing Man, my dude, on Twitter. And he has the interview playing so you guys can see the snippet. And it says, and I quote, Brian Norman says, quote, "We accepted the fight with Jaron Boots Ennis. My dad even called Bozy Ennis and told him we accepted the fight. Then Bozy Ennis said, whoa, no, we ain't trying to fight right now. We want to save that for Undisputed. So your daddy is the first, or is the one who said no, not us." Now you have a situation where it's a bunch of he said, she said. So Jaron went on Wax and he stated the fight was not going to happen per Brian Norman's side. Brian Norman's side was like, nah, hold up. That ain't what happened. And they gave their version of events. Now, me, I don't know exactly what went on because I wasn't privy or there for those conversations. However, I see the play. Jaron Ennis is likely to fight Karen. So per Eddie Hearn in Rematch Room, usual fashion, and other people in boxing do this, Top Rank did this, where a lot of names get dropped in Clout Chase. Oh, we send a massive offer, substantial offer. So when a lackluster fight gets announced, the fans don't take it so hard on the person that you're working with and saying, hey, why are you putting up this crap fight? A rematch with Boots and Karen. So on my page, I've already documented. Brian Norman says I respect the Normans. They immediately said their side of it and cleared the air. Brian Norman Sr., he said, Jaron Ennis, yo people told you a effing lie. We said yes to the fight. We simply made a counter offer. In fact, I called your pops, Bozy Ennis, and told him after we accepted, and he didn't even know about it. We have plenty of time to make this fight happen next. You, sir, are not the boogeyman you think you are. You just lied, and people lied to you to say people don't want to fight you. F all that. We up next. Call Eddie Hearn and tell him we up next. And then he tagged a bunch of people, including DAZN, including Eddie Hearn. I don't know if you guys can see that. So if he was lying, I mean, he's tagging the people involved, DAZN and Eddie Hearn. He says, stop that bullcrap. Stop the BS. We got plenty of time. Jaron Ennis, the way you said we turned it down was hilarious. You are not the best, and we about to show you, so let's get it. And he tagged Jaron Ennis a second time. So they cleared the air from their side. Brian Norman said, I ain't turned down nothing. His manager corroborates that, said this is not true. So like I told you, I see the play. This is now a blame game with two teams who likely aren't going to fight next. And one guy saying it's because of the other guy. The other guy's pointing the finger back in the other direction. And this is boxing, people. Listen, a lot of content is being rushed out in the world of boxing. People clickbaiting, desperate to get views. There's no quality control. So people are trying to stir up stuff and things like that. people who have no idea what they're talking about, just rushing to put out product. Me, I'm not doing that. I've given you my opinion. I always support my opinion to let you know why I believe that is the case. And I feel how I feel. This is mighty convenient that Eddie Hearn promised all these big fights. You lured Boots to your side, promised him more money, and now you can't deliver the big fights for him. So you're not going to want to look like the bad guy. Let's just be real. Eddie Hearn's not going to want to be like, yo, I can't give you the big fights. I can't get them across the line. So you have to blame somebody. You have to have a patsy, a scapegoat, and that's what it looks like. Top Rank, if you really know and pay attention, Brian Norman really recently got elevated because Terrence Crawford is fighting at 54. Top Rank already said that they had a date for Brian Norman, I want to say October or November. So I think they were already planning Brian Norman's next fight, and Top Rank has responded. There's an article on Boxing Scene, and they've already responded saying that the money was not right and they took too long. So the bottom line is this. Boxing is famous for this whole blame game, he said, she said, but no one really cares. It's really, in the game of boxing, it's about the events you can produce and will the fight happen or is the fight not happening next. For my stance has never changed. The fight's not happening next. So again, you can point the finger. Some people saying Boots wants it and Brian Norman's team don't want it. Some people saying Brian Norman's team don't want it. Me, I don't really care. I've stated my opinion on what I think the case is. I truly think the fight's not happening next, and that's what really matters. You can blame the game, and it's like kind of like Mayweather Pacquiao. You can point the finger at whoever you want. The bottom line is still the same. They're not fighting each other next. That's what I firmly believe. We will see if I'm right or wrong. And to be honest, I think it's worse for Boots Ennis because Boots, you know, he has more fights. I believe he might even be older than Brian Norman. So I think the onus is on Eddie Hearn to deliver Boots big fights. Brian Norman just became a champion after Boots. So I think the pressure is to get Boots marquee fights that people would want to see him fight, whether it's at 47 or 54. Boots' team saying they want to stay at 47, so be it. But I don't see it being the glamour division that it normally is. So you're going to be hard pressed to get the big fights. And then the big fights, like the unifications, you have no jurisdiction on those fighters. Mario Barrios, he's with PBC. He might fight Manny Pacquiao. I want to, I believe, do. So why would he forego a Pacquiao fight to fight Jaron Ennis on Jaron Ennis's network, probably DAZN, in Philly, because that's probably the best market for, I guess, that particular fight if you're DAZN. Same thing with Brian Norman. Top Rank is going to build him, develop him as a champion. They wanted to make the Teofimo fight, which is still on the table in the future, as Teo said he wants to move up. Why would you send your fighter to another network, let them get the viewership? And Jaron Ennis, let's be real, he's a great fighter. He's a talented fighter. He might be able to beat these guys. We don't know because we haven't seen the fight, but it's a business, and that's what people don't realize. But I think the thing that people get caught up with is more so the finger pointing and the blame game. And that really is neither here nor there. Either you're making the big fights or you're not making the big fights. Either you're making promises and you can't fulfill those promises, or you're not. And that's one thing PBC does well. They talk a lot less than a lot of these other promoters, and then they just deliver. And that's the school that I come from. That's the cloth I come from. You under promise, over deliver, instead of the opposite, which is to over promise and under deliver. Meaning, oh, I got the game plan for Boots and we want to give him Crawford. I want the Boots and Crawford fight. I want Virgil Ortiz. I want Brian Norman. I want Barrios. And none of them happen. And then he ends up fighting Karen for a second time, which was a horrific time the first time when they fought on Tank's undercard. So Brian Norman, he spoke his piece. He's saying they could still get it cracking. Your dad got a call, and now the ball's in Boots' corner to prove Norman and Norman Sr. a lie because he's saying I called Bozy. And it could get interesting because if you're claiming you call someone, it's nothing to produce a call log. So whoever's lying, you know, they could get found out here because, again, we all have cell phones, right? We all have cell phones, and it's really not hard at this point to produce receipts and call logs. Either way, I look forward to an abysmal fight with Bozy and Boots taking on Karen part 2. That's how I see it.